Hey, thanks for taking some time. For those who don't know, Pete Doyle is with us today. Pete happens to be the president of a group called Engineered Cooling Services. And Pete, I'll be honest with you, man, you got to update your picture online, brother. That one's at least 20 years old, bro. I mean,
that's right. It's my favorite picture.
I think UNHB keep your pictures from when you're about 45.
Appreciate looking at it. I'm like, yeah, I haven't changed that much. I think that was from maybe about 2012. So, it's a solid 14 years old.
That's funny.
I need to dye my hair.
No, Bryant's got that going. We're good.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Well, hey, thanks for taking a minute, brother. This is just laid back conversation, man. So, but I have not had the pleasure of. We hadn't gotten into a whole lot at some of the meetings we've been at. So give me a little background on who Pete Doyle is. Where'd you start out in life? Where are you from? Are you from Florida? Right? How'd you get into this crazy HVAC industry?
Okay, I'll give you a short dissertation. I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Erie, okay.
Yeah, and then I graduated high school there and went to University of Dayton, and I went through their engineering school. Got a bachelor's mechanical degree out of that. Graduated December of 81. I co-op when I was in school. It was kind of neat. I was at a forging plant, saw a lot of wild things. And anyway, my first job out of school, it's kind of funny. There was a lot going on in the oil industry. And so these guys were smart. There weren't that many geology majors. So they said, hey, we're going to start hiring engineers, and we can figure out how to teach them about geology and finding oil. And anyway, they came to school and they're like, look, dude, you can find helicopters, you make a ton of money. And back in that day, a good starting salary for a mechanical engineer was 16 to 18 grand. In fact, I'd gotten an offer from General Dynamics out in Pomona, California, like $18,000. And I thought, man, this is something. And these guys, the restaurant industries are like, hey, how about like 26 in a car? I'm like, of course, I was like 7 years. I worked all through school. I mean, and I'm like, shit, I'm on. So anyway, after about a year of that, my mom and dad came down to visit me. My dad, he's like, are you saving any money? Like, no, I bought a Jaguar. And, he was a general contractor. He goes, this isn't what you went to school for. You need to get out of here and get something in your field. And so for once, I listened to the old man. And I met some kids. I was down in Houma, Louisiana, where I was living, which is kind of a rough spot. It's a lot of just oil field town at that time. And anyway, I met some kids at work that lived in the Panhandle. And they said, hey, why don't you come to Pensacola? We're going to go over there for a weekend. And so I did. And when I saw Pensacola, I'm like, God, I want to move here. I mean, just beautiful little town, beautiful beaches, incredible fishing, just north of us. It's great hunting. And so I put a resume together, and there's a little hotel that's still here. Got a room that drove over next time I had some time off. And, this is back in the old days before computers, really. I mean, the only computers were at school, and you had to do punch cards. So I looked in the phone book under mechanical contractors, and the first one was air comfort service. I made a list, and I still have that list. I got it stuck in a drawer. And, and anyway, I drove into the parking lot. It was of Air Comfort Service, and I asked to speak to the manager, the owner, and the guy at the door said, well, that happened to be me. Come on in. And I said, well, I'm looking for an entry-level job as a project engineer. And I handed him my resume, and he looked at me and goes, son, do your parents know you're this far away from home? I said, yes, sir. And he's like, well, okay, we're looking for a young engineer, but how much you making? I told him, he goes, I can't pay you anything like that. You don't even know what the hell what you're doing. He goes, I'll tell you what, I can give you half that and I'll let you have my wife's car. So, so that's how I get
you trade in the Jag.
yeah, I sold it. So, anyway, that was I started with them in June of 1983. And I worked there a couple of years and went to a much bigger company down in Orlando called SI Goldman, who now has been bought by Comfort. And then went back up to work for Air Comfort for a couple more years. I missed Pensacola, and I made some good friends at Train, and they were really looking at increasing their project work in their service sales side. So I went to work for the Mobile Sales District, and I stayed there, oh Lord, just shy of 15 years. I was going to start my 15th year at Train when I left. And it was kind of a unique office. It's back when Train had franchises. So we had formed some side hustle, so to speak. And that's kind of the term now. Myself with the two others at Train, and bought a fabrication shop. And we started a company doing industrial fabrication because a lot of the plants we worked in, we felt we could, that'd be an easy way to get into the more so the change out type side. And then we also started another company called Global Heat Exchanger Service. And we went all over the United States doing retubing for companies that didn't do it. And in fact, I went over to Osan, Korea. We did a job at an underground hospital over there for the Air Force. And I mean, we were doing some cool stuff. And you just, in fact, we still have a couple of guys that came over from Train. They're still here. We did a job at the Bear Stearns building in New York City, and they were scared to death. I remember I went up and looked at it. We did it for a mechanical contractor, big. They had chill water coming into the building. It was like on the 45th floor, but it was like 1,000-ton chill water heat exchanger. So I went and looked at the job, and I got them rooms at the Roosevelt Hotel, which now I guess it's nice. It was kind of a flea bag back then, but we had to wear that contractors because we were non-union. So I had to get some of their shirts and hats so our guys could wear them. Anyway, we still laugh about it, but they were absolutely scared to death being in New York City. I had more fun with it than they did. But anyway, there were a lot of things started happening at Train then with them buying franchises. And I just thought, if I'm going to do something, it's probably a good time to maybe just, part ways and go out on my own. So in July 26th of 2002, left Train and started Engineer Cooling Service. And it was interesting. I went and saw an attorney because we had a guy that had worked there prior to, and he did everything that you wouldn't do when you leave a company. And it was just one lawsuit after another. So I was got firsthand witness of what not to do. And so I kept my mouth shut, and we put an ad in the paper about 2 weeks after I left, and 75% of the service office applied. So it was, we've got a lot of, in fact, Ray just retired, and Ray was here just shy of 22 years. And a lot of guys are retired now since, but there's still some that came along with us. But what we did, we kind of build ourselves as an alternative to the OEM, and a lot of the folks that we were working for, we made personal friends with, and they loved the idea of being able to work together again. And we continue to surround ourselves with really good people, and we're just fortunate to be able to do that. And we grew and grew. And when we went through Hurricane Ivan, really just basically destroyed the downtown Pensacola, destroyed the Navy base, and it just our level of work was spiral. It was going through the roof. And then year after that, Ivan hit. We had, I think, one in between, a small one in between, and our infrastructure was so weak. Even though Sally went in, or not Sally, but Hurricane. Oh shit! Get my wires crossed here. The big one that hit New Orleans.
Katrina.
Katrina, right? I was thinking of a buddy of mine's wife. Her name was Katrina. What's her name? Anyway,
Is that why they named the hurricane Katrina?
But it also, it blew up the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, and it shut. Our infrastructure was so weak from Ivan, we lost power for about another month, and had a lot of damage. But what it did, it gave us kind of a glimpse of, all right, here we're chugging along at, 10, 12 million a year. And all of a sudden we're up at 20 million a year, consistently for a couple of years. And Drew had come on board by that time. And it was just, and I think we had Tallahassee, we had opened Tallahassee, Mobile, and Pensacola. So we had 3 offices, and we were toying with starting one up in Montgomery. And the Service Logic guys contacted, and back then there wasn't even Service Logic. It was
3 guys in a car in a Jag.
Yeah, these guys. We were writing ads in the Service News for retubing and centrifugal chiller overhaul for guys that didn't do it. But they didn't want to bring the OEMs in because then they'd steal their work. It's typical. And so this guy called me. Actually, he used to work for Carrier's overseas division for chiller startup, that the Jordan company hired him to kind of vet people out. And we shot the breeze for about an hour. He's like, what are you guys all about? He's being nosy. And I don't know. I just talked to him and told him what we were doing. And he said, well, how are things going? I said, absolutely insane. I said, we're the most work we ever did in service and projects when I was at Train was, I don't know, maybe a third of what we're doing now, and kind of on uncharted territories. And we're trying to figure things out. I just bought a terrible software system for service. It was supposed to integrate with QuickBooks, and it didn't. Nothing worked, And so we're back. I mean, it was just everything we were doing. I mean, we're somehow surviving. And he's like, I want you to talk to some guys. I think you'd be a good fit for them because they've got a couple older service companies they put together, and they're sharing things back and forth. And I think you should hear what they have to say. And so the next thing I know, I'm talking with Randy and Tom Trevs from Tolan. This is a long time ago. It's probably at this time in 2021, not 2021, 2006, 2007-ish. And really, I thought, hey, this could be just an incredible shot in the arm if we got together with these folks and, a couple guys from the Jordan company who were the original equity partners. And they're like, hey, we think we could really help you guys. And it just was, to me, like a match made in heaven. This is exactly what we needed to ensure, our viability and our ability to continue on. And, we were just burning through cash just because of the growth, explosive growth.
I was about to get you to elaborate on that, because for those of who've not owned a business, they're thinking, Pete, you're doing 20 million plus a year. You're killing it. Why on earth do you need to
Because when you start doing that, you have a lot of churn. And I used to sit with, in fact, Pam's still here. I go down to her office and say, okay, after payroll, what vendors can we pay this week? When we knew the ones that we could hedge a little bit, if we, because everybody's pretty much net 30, but if we need to stretch them, a couple of weeks, they wouldn't care, and so every week that's, it's like,
who do we pay?
So the cash management is more of a burden than it sounds like.
There's a lot. There's a lot to it. And when people didn't pay their bills, it's like, and me calling, hey man, we got to get squared up, And So anyway, that was a big, big thing. And also the management structure, plus, having 3 offices, and Tolan had a couple offices, Piedmont had a couple offices. And, back then Tolan had volumes. I mean, it was like Encyclopedia Britannica's on the wall in the library of everything to do from the time you showed up to the time you left, whatever your job was. And we literally, Drew and I laugh that we like burn up their Xerox machine out there. We copied everything they had. And I remember shortly after we joined, Travis and Steve O'Donnell and Randy came to my office, and I had one of those like folding Walmart tables in my office. We're sitting there, we were pretty high class, sitting there, and I was hammering with things. And finally, Randy said, "Wait a damn minute. We came here to ask you questions." Me first, Anyway, so, it's a long time ago now. You fast forward, and, I think maybe we had 50 employees, 40 employees, when we joined forces. And, now we're sitting with 350 and 8 offices. And last year we had our first acquisition, bought a really neat control company called ESSI down in Fort Myers. And I was just down that way. I was down there actually in Sarasota yesterday looking at a project that they're going to be involved in with us. But anyway, so that's kind of the ECS deal. And, everybody, we're very, very proud of the company. Everybody who works here is, we really think we take care of it, and it takes care of us. And, that's, I know you guys probably have other questions, but that was not a short answer to
I knew that. We knew there are no short answers around here.
Yeah. We're only going to ask you 2 questions, Pete. Don't worry.
2 questions, podcast over.
Okay.
Pete, like, as you were building a new business, what would you say was the biggest challenge, but then also what was the most fun about taking something and building it from the ground up?
I think the most fun was when, honestly, bringing new customers on, and it's like, okay, I don't know how we did this, but we went in and talked to these guys. And I mean, big customers, paper mills, power plants. I mean, and they were willing to give us a chance. And, it's just, and it sticks with you. I mean, and we still have a lot of the same people we're working for. So I always thoroughly enjoyed that. And then, the getting the right people, when you kind of had a gut check when you hired somebody and you said, hey, they're going to be great, and if fruition, I think that's another one. The challenges, like anything, with you get some growing pains, and making decisions that, which were you'd think were well thought, but and that kind of goes back to, we made a lot fewer mistakes when you start talking to guys that have done it for years and years, and why they made decisions they made, so I think when you made a strategic decision and it worked, there's always a risk. That was always a really good feeling too, and then and it's still the same thing today, getting, just like I said earlier, surrounding yourself with good people. I don't think we had a complete understanding of the hiring process that we have now, and also the same goes with, I used to laugh and say, hell, we'll rake leaves. I don't care. We got to make some money. And now we're a little bit more careful of maybe who we want to go to work for, and also what they're expecting us to do. So we've become, a little bit more seasoned in those kind of decisions. We, like everybody else, we screw up, every now and then as well, but not as much, as when you just didn't know what you didn't know. And so I think a challenge was getting with the wrong customer, and that's that can be a big drag on you, and but you felt like, and we don't feel that way anymore, that hey, we've got to tough this out, and you keep getting further drugged down, and you're spending too much time either or that employee, just like, hey, maybe you're better suited somewhere else. And I think the same with customers. Hell, they may have thought the same about us, but I think that those two things, which are, paramount to being successful in business, you've got to have customers, you've got to have employees, but you have to have the right ones on both sides, and then you couple that with cash flow. So
I think you're right. It's it's something I adopted that Keith Summey used to always say. It's like, anytime someone thinks that you're smart or has a good answer, there's usually a corresponding scar to go along with it, because usually you learn the hard, you learn the hard way.
God Almighty, we have a lot of scars. Yeah, I mean, and just I can tell more stories, but we'll save that for a beer later on.
Yeah.
Just crazy things.
Well, look, you're married and have kids. Tell us a little bit about your family and all that stuff.
I've got 3 kids. The oldest is Harrison. He's 31 now. In fact, he's been with us, I think, officially 6 years. May have been 5 years this year, but I mean, all through high school. And I think he started maybe about 7th or 8th grade, coming out in the summer times and, helping out and, piddling around the shop or whatever. And like on weekends, if we had a project going on, I would take him with me out, getting to go pick up sticks or whatever, welding rod pieces, whatever it was. But
hold that flashlight, keep still. Yeah, sure.
Right. So he's doing a great job as a project sales engineer, and he smart kid, went to Mississippi State, or not. Oh my God, his partner is Ole Miss. I'm sorry, and he got his mechanical engineering degree. The other engineer that sits in the office with him is a Mississippi State grad. So we have a little bit of a conversation, and it's funny. We're running out of room again. So he's got like about a 12 by 12 office. There's 3 of them in there now. And he just graduated from Alabama, and he's back. We put him in the field for about 6 months. So Harrison took the sign off that said Harrison Doyle, and he just wrote a handwritten sign on notebook paper that says "Our Office."
Well, now Harrison's doing a phenomenal job, man. I'm going through
I hope Craig listens to this when we tell him we're going to need some money to build out more offices.
Well, I have to give it to Harrison. He's one of the few project guys that's going into the projects that showed up to our boot camp for maintenance sales.
That's right.
But
he's one of two.
One of two.
Yep.
Yeah. But he enjoys it. And he's got 3 little kids, so he's got his hands full. And then I have my middle daughter's Mary Margaret. She's married. She was a stockbroker, but now she works with the Fort Lauderdale Foundation to put money that people donate into various things. And then my youngest is Annabelle, and she's 25, and she just got engaged. So she's going to be living up in Hickory, North. She's up in Hickory, North Carolina. So far from So anyway, and I've been married for 33 years to my wife, Libby, and she's put up with a lot. When we first started, we sold our house and bought an old ramshackle house down the street, and here's was on the water, which was kind of cool, but it was tired, and we had a lot of rats that would come in the garage. I remember at night, I'd say, I had a 22. We put birdshot in it. I'd say, here, you open that door and turn the light on, and I'll shoot.
No lack of fun in the Doyle household.
My wife was put up. Actually, when we first started, I was using her Suburban, and she's like, "Hey, man, it's summertime. I need that back." I'm not, because she was driving our hunting lease truck, which was a little Ford Bronco with no AC and a stick shift. She's like, I'm done. You can
Yeah.
drive me a car.
Oh, that's awesome.
Anyway, all the good times. Now it's funny. Back then, it was I was kind of walking on eggshells.
It was give me my Suburban or I'm gonna leave.
Alimony's expensive.
Anyway, so that's it in a nutshell, guys.
Yeah, no,
There's a lot of
that's
stories
awesome.
in between,
And now Harrison is doing well. I'm actually going through the year-end Derby results right now, and I ain't going to give the whole thing away, but let's just say the boy did pretty good. He did pretty good in 23.
Yeah,
So.
he and Russ Brock were slugging it out. I mean, slugging it out. We were so proud of both of them. I tell you what, the really a big factor was, and Russ has got a real smart young guy working with them, who's also an Alabama mechanical engineer, and having Parker and Ben with Harrison, it's allowed those guys to focus on bigger things. And while you have somebody you're trying to bring into our field, working with vendors or subcontractors, making sure all that kind of things being done to put proposals together, or maybe go into a walkthrough with the sub, that takes time. So I think both Harry and Russ sold, let's say, 7-8 million a piece the year before, and then they jumped up to 13-14 this year, and there's a reason for it. So that's why we've got Patrick Conway up in Birmingham, who's also God, we have a lot of Alabama MEs, Jiminy Crickets, and he's been with us. Patrick's, I think, about 4 years now, but we put and he came out of a consulting firm, and we got another young guy, Spence, out of a consulting firm, another Alabama grad, and he's with Patrick. So we're like, okay, we're on a roll with Alabama grads. So that's what we hired Caleb, the big kid that came in. So we'll get him assigned, probably we're putting him in the field for 6 months, because you have to go in the field. And that
sounds like you need an award at the Christmas party for Alabama season tickets, and that would be a hot one.
We got him.
Well, make sure you keep your eye on those guys with Saban retiring. Make sure make sure they're all doing okay. I'm sure they're moping around here lately.
To top it off, Bobby Marcus, who runs our controls, of course, he graduated from Alabama.
Yep. Shocker.
Alabama's been good.
So anyway, and Drew's a big Florida State fan. We really, I don't know why, but they got a great engineering school over there. But sooner or later, I'm sure we'll get somebody from the ACC in here.
Yeah, that's right. It's funny, Pete. Like whenever we have our MSR boot camps, we always say, like, you can always recognize the ECS guys because it looks like an SEC frat house just walked in. Like, they're all wearing their Patagonia sweaters,
Hey, we're pretty high and tight down here,
Pete, do you still get out? Do some customers still ask for Pete Doyle, or does Pete Doyle still get out and sell a little bit?
I was on the service manager's call this morning before I switched over to this, and I said, guys, I just got an email. We have a 10-story building downtown. It was kind of an aggressive email that we have no heat in it, and what am I going to do to get it squared away? And you're like, okay, this isn't really on the agenda. Do you have anything else you want to say?
I like a rather aggressive email. I like that. That's a very good
way. What are you going to do about this?
Yeah, that's exactly what it said. What can I
That's what we're going to do.
Get your tool bag, Pete, and walk yourself down it.
Other than the word urgent, there's at least a dozen exclamation points after it. In fact, I was down, we were last week and then this week, we're working on a project, good customer, redoing the HVAC in 7 dormitories and a bioscience building and their athletic center. So it's design build. In fact, we took a consulting engineer down yesterday, and I met Carson Finn out of our Orlando office down there, and had Jason Benson, who runs our projects division. So we're real excited about that, and it's going to be a big job. A lot of it has to happen over the summer, and it's kind of neat. It's interesting, and not to get into the weeds, but they've got heating problems in all the dorms, and they have an underground hot water distribution system, but the dorms have gas heat. So we're going to put big storage tanks and heat exchangers in, and we're going to pump that hot water into those heat exchangers to convert it to heat domestic water. So anyway, that's a big part of it. And, so yeah, absolutely get out a lot.
Let me ask you a question. So think back a minute to, all right, I'm opening up my own shop. You had a couple benefits of being in one of the hottest states in the country and Hurricane Alley to boot. So that certainly maybe helped, bolster your business at times. But there's a ton of HVAC contractors down there in Florida, right? What made Pete Doyle and his crew successful? What do you think you did differently?
Well, go ahead, finish it up.
That just led to your success, because a lot of people try hard and they, maybe not have the success. So what do you think you were doing differently?
I think because the market that we went into, that the air-cooled, water-cooled chiller market really was limited to the OEMs. Okay. I mean, there was a company over, it was called Servidyne. They were in New Orleans. There just weren't that many people around us, and we have a lot of industry around us, a lot of industry, but it was, hey, Carrier did Carrier, York did York, Train did Train, and, McQuay did McQuay. And I remember in 2004, McQuay came to us and said, hey, you have more chillers under contract of ours than we do, and they only have one service guy, which was obvious. And, the engineers were fed up because you have one guy for 3 states. And they said, if you hire our guy and send guys to school, we'll give you our chiller startup and warranty business. That was a big deal for us in 2004 to have that. And we had it all the way through 2019. We did a really good job for them. That's when they said, okay, we're just going to open an office up down here. Thanks a lot. So, yeah. Anyway, but having that level of technical expertise, and a couple of those guys could do absorption work too, and there weren't a lot of people that could do absorption work. But the large tonnage centrifugal service, and we could do Train, we could do Carrier, we could do York, and one of our guys that had come with us had used to work for Westinghouse, which McQuay had bought, and he was, we just had the skill sets. So our market was the OEM market. That's what we went after. And there's cumbersome, slow moving, not flexible, not in some cases, not very nice, not a lot of personality in dealing with customers. And I think that helped us too, where we were, could understand their needs and their concerns and where they realized that we did, we made that real, try to make that real clear to them. And they chose to work with us instead plus, a lot of folks we had known through industry, but when you go and tell somebody, hey, we're working in this place, we think we could help you. And we feel like we could maybe be a little bit more cost effective or faster on our feet, help you with solutions outside of the chiller plant, whatever it may be. So I do think, though, the chiller plant was our key to success, and then working out, then it came into, hey, we take care of what about our Lieberts? What about these package units? We don't want to have 2 or 3 contractors. And so that just grew and grew, where we weren't just looking for chiller techs. We were looking for, different skill sets in the trades. And then in 2010, Bobby we had made a number of bad decisions on controls. I mean, we really didn't have the right people, because we felt like, we were subbing controls out, but there's an old saying, you're only as strong as your weakest sub. And these guys have their own customers, they're busy. And it just became, we were having relationships strained because of our control subs. And so we felt, we've got to do this. We got to quit hiring the bum of the month club to run things. And, everybody had a different idea. Let's do Johnson FX. Let's do automated logic for a time. I mean, so we went through all that. And then I was talking to Bobby, and I mean, he was with Siemens when he came with us, I think close to 30 years. And Siemens came out with this line called Talon, which was, a backnet line. It really mirrored Apogee, but it was non-proprietary, which was good for us too, So, and they were wanting to give it to some rum-dum contractors around, and he didn't want that because he felt like they would meddle in his business, and we worked in a lot of the same places, so it worked out well. And that was 2010, and I think about 2018, Bobby came to work for us. He had to fill the Mother Siemens to run that division for us, and it's that was a big help too. But we can do, we can do a project and put your equipment in. We can maintain it. We can put the controls in, maintain those, or if it's midway through life, we can help protect your investment with service and upgrades along the way. So I think we bring a lot to the table with bringing new work into the company, whether it's maintenance or projects, with the skill sets that our employees have or that we can deliver as a company.
That's cool. So Pete, we're probably getting pretty close to our time here, but so folks who are listening, we have an annual meeting of senior leadership at the business units and at Service Logic. And if you've never had a chance to be there, Pete, at that meeting, something that you're really a champion of, and something I think that's important to you, is letting everyone know the value of the shared experience and success of the organizations here at Service Lodge. I wanted to give you a chance to talk to some of the folks who may hadn't heard, if you wanted a chance to encourage them to reach out and to understand what sort of value they have in this organization. That's part of what we want to do with this podcast, is to let everybody know that, and you're a real champion for it.
Yeah, in fact, one of the things that that was really near and dear to me in the meeting this year was to talk about the capital planning opportunities that we have, especially with lead times on equipment, and we're doing that. That's a team effort between our maintenance sales teams and our project teams, where maintenance a lot of time is leading with that as a value-added service. That, hey, as part of our first PM, in fact, we have a grading sheet for the equipment. We grade it 1 through 5, and we explain to the customer why we're doing that, where they know, what state of the union, so to speak, their equipment will be in. But hey, instead of just going and saying, yeah, we'll do the first inspection, let you know what we found. I mean, we're going a step further. And at the time, during the sales process, the maintenance sales rep, and if it's a big enough facility, during the validation meetings, bring the project salesperson in with them, where they can talk a little bit more detail to the customer about budgeting and what the value of their current investment is, and then usually within 30 to 60 days after the first PM's done, the project sales engineer will set up a meeting with the customer to go in and talk about what was found, and starting to try to get more strategic in, hey, you may have some gear that is critical to your operation that could be on its last leg, and it's long lead time equipment, and would you like us to go ahead and create budgets for this? Or in some cases it may need to be replacement because it's 30 weeks out. Even at the point what we're doing to hammer the point in, if it's especially critical cooling, we're including rental rates for equipment in the pro forma, so to speak, to say, look, this chiller goes down. Hey, it's 50 weeks, 40 weeks. It's going to be probably 25,000 a month for a rental, plus, getting set up. So you need to know I think having that but it's starting with the maintenance team. They're leading with it. Then it's joining together. We always have a kickoff meeting with with both those sales reps when we're meeting a customer. If it's, if there's not enough scale to it, you may not have a project sales guy at that meeting, but that's usually a decision that the maintenance sales rep will be making with the project sales, especially if there's been some attention with visit from the project sales rep to get into more detail on the ways that we can present the capital planning. How would they like to see it? So so then we put a bow on it at the kickoff meeting and then get going. So what I think that leads to, and I've said this to our guys for years, it's great when the phone rings. Like I told you the other day, these guys we've done a lot of work for over in Leon County, and they're an energy service company, and they called about this opportunity down in Sarasota. And but those are great calls. But the other thing, we got to create our own market. And I think that's a big key to success is you want to grow the business. You got to create your market. And I can't think, and that's a lot of, hey, just going to see people you're not working for, the old school, hey, it's cold calling, whatever you want. It's like, hey, we want to work here. Let us tell you about tell us about yourself, or tell us about ourselves, and see if we may be a fit. But the capital planning is such a layup that's delivered to us, especially because, hey, computer room units, they're still a year out. Air handlers, 30 to 40 weeks. You can get in 14 to 16 now, but still it's the time you write a proposal, get a PO, go through a submittal process, it's 6 months, so, these kind of things are really playing into our court. And I think just that mentality of creating your own market, there's many facets to it. It could be discussing control opportunities. Everybody bitches about their controls. Everybody. And of course, they don't bitch about ours, except the one we got this morning, Virgin. Anyway, that's just something I think that really, it's early in the year. Really think about that. How could you get with your sales team? Say, hey, how can we take this challenge on? And if you want to know more about it, hey, I'm happy to discuss it with you. Tom Martin, our sales VP of sales, loves to talk about it. But it works. I mean, it's over the last couple of years, it's put a lot of bread on the table. We've got a lot of new customers. Hell, we had this one plant outside of Birmingham. Competitor had it. They weren't even brought up to speed that R22 was phased out. They're like,
it'll be the gas forever.
On the roof. I mean, it's a big plant, and they're like, what? And did you realize 3-phase package units are like 5 months out? And they're like, no, they fired those guys. They're like, you're freaking kidding me. So. Sometimes, and it was a great maintenance sales call. It's going to turn into a great account, and we're going to change a lot of gear out. And we look at putting controls in there, and, so it's really cool stuff. And they're easy conversations to have, but I think it's
helping people. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, great way. We all have great techs and shiny trucks or whatever, But hey, what are we going to do outside of that? And I think these are the little things that make a big difference.
I got an overarching question. A lot of people start business so they eventually will sell that business, right? And go fishing for every day or something. Did you ever consider? All right, I built a $20 million business. Did you ever consider just selling it and buying your fishing boat and being done working. What was that ever in your mind? Because you're like the poster child of the guy who sold his business, but has grown it tremendously since joining Service Logic.
Yeah, I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know people have done that, but it's like I think the whole mentality was, bringing a partner like that in that had those kind of resources. A lot of people took big risks coming here, big risks. I mean, new company, hell, Drew had working for a great CPA firm, had a baby coming or maybe, I think Carter was maybe just a little baby, maybe, and another one possibly on the way when he left. There was a lot of people who left really good positions to come here. And I had a lot of weight on my shoulders about that too, that, hey, look, we have a chance to make this a really great company. And having the resources available to help grow it. I mean, I was really looking for more so to me it was there's risk involved in doing it, but I felt the risk in not doing it, especially after having 6 months or so to talk to these, in depth to the guys at Toll and the guys at Piedmont. Midwest had just come on. We chatted with them on some things, but and really the folks at Jordan that, hey, look, we can help who with original Service Logic folks help, and we understand the capital side of the business, and you're good at what you guys do, knock yourself out, and we can help with the monetary end of it, and also with bonding. That's a big thing too. A lot of bigger jobs, just to not have that worry and to be able to run 100% on growth and focused on growth, to me, versus what we could do on our own core. There was never a thought about getting out. This was just a thought about long-term viability and growth and success. And I thought, hey, we made it, through 5 years of craziness and, from startup through hurricanes. But it's like, okay, the light's going off that, with that kind of a jump in growth, there's got to be more structure. There's got to be, and these decisions are getting, the mistakes you could make a bad decision that really could cost the company a big setback, and to have access to people that, hate to say it, may have already had to make that decision, or they made the right one and explained to you, let me tell you why I did this, or Roland saying, I know you're getting your ass kicked on this software system that you bought and you had to go back to QuickBooks, and we have really no service management tool. We just spent $500,000 in 2 years researching what we have. And, if you like it, we'd be happy to help you get it set up. We'll send our folks down. And it was great. I mean, it was like music to my ears, those kind of things. And also everything else that we could, take years off of potential screw ups and use that to propel our growth. So
absolutely,
so here, I'm enjoying it. I think it's great.
Oh yeah. Last question, and then I think we all probably got to go. I got to know another one started. Do you by chance in your garage today have a vintage 1982 Jaguar XKE?
No, but I do. I have a vice. This guy I know that's got some old sports cars got me on this site called Bring a Trailer. You guys ought to check it out. It's wild. It's auctions where people can auction old sports cars. And so I get alerts for
Bring a Trailer.
But anyway,
you should end up buying that same Jaguar one day. That'd be a nice little full circle.
You guys have to go. So when I went to sell the car, I sold it to this. It was a car dealer, and he had kind of, I don't want to say special interest cars, but, it was because the car I had was an older car. So his check bounced. And there's no law against writing a bad check. It's an outlaw state. It's crazy. So I'm like, his name was Chuck. I said, Chuck, what are we going to do? He goes, man, I can maybe give you half of it. I got this. Some guy traded me something. And I got a 9mm pistol and a diamond ring. So I got. And I had started dating my wife at the time, and I sold the pistol to buy her birthday present. And I sold the diamond. So anyway, I haven't had a sports car since then. So maybe one day, but I do enjoy looking at bringing a trailer. So whoever does listen to this, go on that and you'll see, you can, like, key in any kind of car you think's cool. And they'll show
I got it pulled up now. I'll be searching.
That's cool. That's cool.
All right, well, thanks so much for taking the time, Pete. We really appreciate you. It's great to hear your story, brother.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
Hope we get a chance to get face to face soon.